and that is what was expected from him. He will also want to prioritize on key economic areas. For example, infrastructure. In any economic setup that is going to grow, energy is a very key drive for economic development. There has to be as many incentives towards the energy sector. If he has to promote manufacturing, then the initial stage will be to enhance the power availability to the people. And he has nothing to lose by being tough. That is what I expected from today when he's going to address the Kenyans. He should tell us, look, I'm here, you voted for me. There could be some contests here and there. There could be some people not very happy with the situation, but this is where we are. I'm the President of the Republic of Kenya. Trust me, I will deal this for you. Because, to be honest, if you are given this power today for 2 days, there are things you are going to make. Some obvious decisions. There are things that you must do differently. And don't dwell so much on celebration, because that is what has failed many countries. Because it's a small achievement, you want to dwell on that as an achievement. And also, I expect that today when he's going to address us, and even his people and the leaders who are there, they won't give promises, because now the time for promises ended by election. There shouldn't be an advantage of saying, okay, now we have planned. Now it's time of doing it, because now he's already there. There is every reason why he has to do what he has to do. And we appreciate the fact that he is really acknowledging the rule of law. He is going so much, even if you look at what is happening in the opposition, he is really giving room for some kind of discussion. Like, I know I'm the president, but look, let me hear. They say the majority have the say, but the minority need to have, they may not have their say, but the majority have their way. It is very important for us to listen to every Kenyan. And listening from what I've seen the cabinet doing, I would commend the president, because I'm seeing very few ministers speak in public. That is very good. It's a deviation from the past. I have not seen ministers coming out and telling us things every day. I'm seeing more of people being quiet. You know, there are ministers, we don't even know what is happening with the ministries, but there are things going on. And that's very good. And I think that should be a spirit that we must encourage to the entire cabinet. Finally, the issue of being a president must never be forgotten, that a president is a state symbol, is a unit, is a symbol of unity. There is no president for opposition or government, Kenya Kwanza or Azimio. The president of Kenya is a symbol of national unity. And as such, I'm sure that the veterans who came before us, those who brought us the independence, they envisage that one day we'll be having our own self-rule. Self-rule means we are happy with ourselves. Whatever the mud that we have is our own. And he must firmly state that he's supporting peace within this period. And of course, we've not seen much different from what he's saying. Finally, and not the least, we also want him to be tough on corruption. Pronounce himself deliberately that this is not what I would want to hear from my government. Because being a head of state, you are the commander-in-chief. The head stops with you. You may want to blame a minister or the other, but eventually will say, under my tenure, this is what happened or did not happen. So I think he has the best chance to do something different from the rest of the presidents.
Doc, I would like you also to weigh in on the issue of his government. And it's a good thing that Nelson has reminded us that this is the government, the first government that a sitting CS will have his day in parliament and also address Kenyans on exactly what he or she is doing. Still on the same, you saw how the president cracked the whip on the health PS and also on KEMSA, more or less showing that he is more than committed. Yes, indeed, the government is more than about 9 months old now, but we have seen some tremendous steps that the president has taken in matters accountability.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, President Ruto, from the onset of his occupation of the highest office, he set a very clear rules, whereby I'll give you the job, you make sure that you deliver as per the requirement of that job. And when one of his officers in the Ministry of Health failed to do his work or her work, then he reacted, and the reaction was very well, and it was welcomed. It was welcomed by all Kenyans, and people viewed him as someone who is a no-nonsense, who doesn't want to have any corruption within his country. But as my brother has put it very well, the blueprint of his deliverables are anchored on his manifesto. So we don't need now to talk about issues of we'll do this or we'll do this. We already know what you promised to do. We know in political campaign times, promises are made, huge promises are made, but government operates differently. Government operates based on budgets that are already forecast, and therefore, and the fact that he was not, the sitting president, or the fact that being the deputy, but he was not given the privilege to be part of the system at that particular time, he did not budget for his promises. And quite often Kenyans think that when the president promises things, all of a sudden, very early in the morning, once he is sworn in the office, he will start delivering. The government don't operate that way. Government has a focus, and budgeting is always, based on previous years. He may be responding to budgets that has already been established by the other government, the previous government.
Apologies, Dr. But as you can see on your screen, is that that is the official ceremonial car or vehicle that the head of state is expected to use, and you can see that the soldiers there are on standby, meaning that their commander-in-chief is not quite far, and any moment now we might see signs of the head of state arriving at the Embu Stadium. But for now, the entertainment continues, and we also here in live studio continue to reflect on some of the gains and some of the steps that we have made in the 60 years that we have been independent, and what we also can do better, because we also need to put things and issues into perspective. Continue with your statement.
Right. Definitely, that's the ceremonial car.
Yes.
And we love it whenever we see it during national function days.
Sure.
Now, it is time to deliver with a clear roadmap. And the clear roadmap the president has put in place is by putting the right people in the right place, first and foremost, because it's not him who will going to deliver. It's those people he has engaged. And if he has bloated his government, for example, adding more human resource to make sure that he delivers his promises, I think, as my colleagues have already put it, I think it is one way that we should give them a freedom. I know opposition will want to shoot him down so that he fails in what he wants, he is expected to do, so that they tell the public that, you see, you have elected a president and he has not delivered what he was expected to deliver. And that's a mentality of people who are not thinking of being nationalist, or people who are not patriotic, because services are for the citizens of this country. It has nothing to do with the leadership of the country. The leadership of the country only ensures or guide that those services are delivered to the citizen of the country. So one thing that perhaps I will expect him to now put a lot of weight on is, of course, he should look for a way of preventing wastages in his government, because that is one thing that is killing us. A governor, for example, let me go to my governor in Mandera. He has no threat, he has nothing. He wants to come to my village in Takaba, and he uses 28-30 vehicles to come there, and all those vehicles plus all the personnel who are in those vehicles are paid by the exchequer. I don't see why we should need such a wastage. That's a wastage. Yes. He uses his car and two of security cars.
I see also the Attorney General has also arrived. Justin Bidan Muturi is, of course, he hails from the same county. He is also being welcomed into the stadium, meaning that the creme de la creme that we are expecting, the top leadership of the head of state, any moment from now. And as you can see, the security personnel are on standby, meaning that it's only a matter of time before we see the head of state who we are eagerly awaiting for. Doc?
Right, thank you. So once the wastages are prevented, I think we will be able to keep more cash or more resources into our coffer for purpose of using those resources for other development or other services. Secondly, as we all spoke about it, corruption.
Correct. Also the Chief Justice and the President of the Supreme Court, the Chair of the National Council on Administration of Justice, Chief Justice Martha Koome, is also in attendance. We are almost there, right?
Right, I can see the high dignitaries, the three arms of the government. Now it's only the executive.
The executive that we are waiting for.
Yeah, that we are waiting for.
Yeah.
We already have the speakers of the National Assemblies. We already have also the judiciary, the Chief Justice, and definitely the President now to follow.
And also the Council of Governors.
Council of Governors, of course,
Chair of the Council of Governors.
Yeah, but we have been taught the three arms of the government.
Yes.
And now the county governments are not part of the three arms of the government according to the teachings that we have been given. So if I talked about wastage prevention, then secondly, we have talked about corruption. That must be also completely zero tolerance. Thirdly, he must come up with a strategic priority of his manifesto, saying, with this roadmap, we will going to do this and this other phase. I promised we will do this in the next 5 years. Once we get that information on our public domain, then people expectation will be controlled, because they know government don't operate just like a private entity, and therefore everything will be based on focus, and the roadmap they will give us is the one which will going to guide us, and we will be will measure the performance of the government of the President William Ruto based on the roadmap he has given us, based on the priorities that he has set.
All right.
Finally,
apologies.
Finally, I mean, you don't just do all that without goodwill. So we must have a goodwill from his troops, people who really are dedicated and committed to deliver the presidential pledges, and based on the roadmap they have set, they are able to say, this is what we are expected to do, and for us to help the president to deliver his pledges, we must have the goodwill and ensure that every other steps that they take is geared towards delivering what is in the manifesto and the strategic priority that has been set. Therefore, communicating that information to the public domain is also one critical thing. Otherwise, when we are in the darkness, then it gives us a question of asking a lot of what is happening, what is going on, what was he supposed to do, we don't understand what is going on, you know. And then the oppositions are loud in terms of underscoring the government's performance. If you are not able to tell them that this is what they were expected to do, and everything is at a gray area, then the opposition will going to have an upper hand in terms of poisoning the public on issues of negativity in terms of the performance of the government.
All right. Engineer, looking at our country, some have argued that Kenya is always a politicking country, and our elections do not quite represent what a democracy like Kenya, being one of the biggest democracies in East and Central Africa, we are always in politics, and after every election we have to have an issue. I think the only one that we never had any petitions or any of the sharing of anything was in 2003, I think. Yes, and now we have bipartisan talks. Let's talk some politics. And the bipartisan talks don't seem to be yielding any fruits yet. Hardline stance that have caused the two sides actually to suspend the talks indefinitely. But unfortunately, we cannot ignore politics in a free country like Kenya. I'd like you to touch on that.
Well, just before I touch on politics, I just also want to comment on what my colleague said, that it's good for the ministers are a bit quiet. But I also feel like if as much as they're quiet, they need to be seen to be responsible. If you are on the social media handles, you can see There's talk of this opulence that some of these ministers are being associated with, wearing expensive watches, expensive shoes, some watches worth 5 months' salary of a cabinet secretary. That sends a very wrong message. We've seen some of the CSs who are being appointed exposing their expensive cars. That's a sign that money is being misused. So as much as they may not talk much, but as long as we are perceiving them to be misusing the public wealth, that's a very bad thing. So I think he needs to be very firm with the people around him. We have seen he has lost weight. He did not lose weight because he's just sitting there. It's because he's working hard.
Yes.
And probably he's carrying the whole country alone. Probably the people around him are not carrying the same weight as he's carrying. So therefore, we don't want him to surround himself with a lot of weight that is not necessary. Let him surround himself with people, men and women who can drive this country. Kibaki was seated in State House, but we knew the country was safe because the people he surrounded himself with, they were able to govern. When Uhuru Kenyatta took over, probably we can see things were a bit different. He surrounded himself with men, he gave them the freedom, but probably where they took that freedom is where we have today. We have a very huge debt as a country and very little to show for it. We don't want Ruto to carry the whole country on himself because he's surrounded by people around him who are not able to help him drive this country. As far as politics is concerned, I feel like our politics is still has not yet matured. Because if you look at the opposition we still have is the one that we had 30 years ago. We haven't changed in terms of the character and formation of the opposition. We still have the Orengos of this world, the Mother Karuas, the Raila Amolo Odinga. We haven't changed the character or the crop of leaders that are either in the opposition. We want to see more of young people coming up and taking leadership in terms of both in government and in the opposition, so that the conversation that is there can also be different. That's the only way we can see our democracy is moving forward. But as long as we still have the same characters over 30 years discussing politics, then that's a challenge for us. I don't feel like we're able to progress.
All right. And Nelson,
Yes.
recognition of heroes and heroines who fought and continue to fight for justice, equality, and a better life for Kenyans, including those who are doing it right now. This is something that we need to step up, because we have some of the heroes and heroines as we speak, and we have seen how we have treated our heroes and heroines in the past, and especially those who fought for, one, the independence of Kenya, and two, for the multi-partyism in the 90s. I'd like to touch on that.
Yeah, we have so many heroes and heroines who have contributed to this country immensely. Unfortunately, we are a country that only appreciates people in their death, not when they're alive. You saw the late wife of Dedan being buried the other day, Mukami.
Yes.
You could see the opulence, the people
pomp,
coming,
the color, and the budget as well.
We really like she fought, the husband was there. But before then, you and me knows, we don't know where she was. We don't know where she was like a year ago, 2 years ago. We know she was around.
Yes.
We have an idea there was some widow somewhere doing something. But we should have not only the monuments, calling the roads by Kimathi Street, Moi Avenue, the families of these people who have fought for the country, they do not enjoy the lifestyle of what they should enjoy. In the US, for example, a veteran, when somebody who has sacrificed for the country dies, the government takes over the family moving forward. And that's something that must be learned from where we are. It is not possible that we only celebrate our heroes and heroines when they die. We must have there's a commission that is in place for heroes and heroines, but there seems to be more of what would I say? It's just something not structural. It's just a name of something, because the lives of these people, you can see what's happening in Embu today. There are so many people who are singing. There were guys who composed the songs for this country, the Mwalimu, Mwalimu, I don't know, where is he? We don't know where he is. Unless he dies, we can now find out and say, oh, the guy composed some music for us, you know? This is the time we should be saying, okay, these are the people who have contributed to this, and they must be given a stipend on a monthly basis, regular basis, because they don't have anything else they do. Whoever composed our national anthem or our flag or our devolution things of what we are doing today must be put somewhere. It is very sad if we keep on celebrating our heroes during their death and not remembering that they have families. Today, you know, like this media house you are in today hosts almost all the journalists in this country that have come from this house.
Yes.
Do you have some appreciation that the government knows this KBC, for example, has contributed heavily in the media industry for this country?
And they should, actually.
They should be having something of the sort. The late Kasavuli was a friend of mine. When I went for the funeral, I saw everybody, every journalist from all media houses come and say, this was my friend. It was my friend. But before then, we cannot remember what was it that was being done before.